Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Laura Wright, and I am a Public Affairs Advisor with the Halifax Regional Municipality, and I am your moderator for today's media availability. We'll begin with remarks from Mayor Savage, and I'll then open the floor to questions from media in person and on the phone. I'd like to invite media, when called upon, to approach the microphone so that we can ensure audio is heard. Over to you, Mayor Savage.
Thank you very much. Is this working? Do I have to press something? Good. Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Bonjour à tous. Gwe. Thank you for joining us here in Halifax Hall, here in the ancestral territory of Mi'kmaq in Mi'kma'ki. We are all treaty people. I want to speak briefly to this morning's housing announcement by Premier Houston and Municipal Affairs and Housing Minister John Lohr. There's much in this to commend in the measures that are announced today. A firm acknowledgement from the province that we need to do more for people who are unhoused or precariously housed, for people who struggle to find a place to rent or a first home to buy. Unequivocally, we need action to ensure a greater availability across the broad range of affordable and attainable housing. We have been saying that at HRM for a long time. I was very pleased to see a commitment to act quickly on some of the Affordable Housing Commission recommendations, including the introduction of legislative amendments to permit inclusionary zoning. While we obviously await details on that, I believe this measure, first requested by HRM formally in December of 2016, will mean many more affordable units are included in new builds. Extending rent control provisions for the time being is a good measure, as are the planned Residential Tenancies Act protections against the practice of rent evictions. Additional residence housing for students, NSC students, at 2 HRM campuses is also welcome, and I hope we will see more options at our university campuses in the future as well. Similarly, an indication that we will receive greater abilities to control short-term rentals and flexible taxation measures are something that Council have asked for and something that we welcome. There is much here that is laudable, and we appreciate those measures from the provincial government. We also have concerns. We look forward to consultation on the planning task force focused on large residential projects, as well as the regional transportation group charged with swiftly developing a 20-year transportation plan. HRM has good plans in place now to prepare for the growth for many years to come, which we hope will be part of those discussions. Together, the regional plan, the integrated mobility plan, the center plan, and the rapid transit strategy are the culmination of years of strategic planning and efforts to manage infrastructure, develop sustainable communities, and improve the range of transportation option for residents. Our vision for the future is to enhance our quality of life by fostering the growth of healthy and vibrant communities, a strong and diverse economy, and, very importantly, a sustainable environment. Halifax has experienced unprecedented growth because we've invested and we have set policies that created the kind of vibrant city that attracts people and investment. We're doing well to attract people and to plan for growth. We have 19,000 approved units that could be built today. We have thousands more that will be extended development rights at increased densities. We have 4,000 units under construction as we speak. When the province approves HRM's center plan after consultations next week, it will enable 37,000 more units, all of which could proceed as of right with no development agreement. I see much in what was announced today that will make a difference. I see areas that need conversation and consultation to achieve common ground. The bottom line is that we share a responsibility to ensure that all residents have an opportunity to realize their potential, to sleep in a warm bed under a secure roof. I look forward to working with the Premier, the Minister, and officials in the days and weeks ahead to accomplish those goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Savage. I'll call upon a reporter from each outlet, and each reporter may ask one question and one follow-up. Any additional follow-up questions may be directed to the Public Affairs Office. First up, we have Paul Krillman with CTV.
All right, I was wondering, as part of this housing plan, the province announced that it was going to create a task force that will be not only analyzing but also approving large residential developments in the Halifax area. Just wonder what you think of this idea and if it will help the housing crisis?
We have a need for housing. We have a number of lots, as I've indicated, that are ready for building right now. But I've said for many months, maybe even years, that we need to look at the supply of housing and make sure that we have big projects coming down the pike. We've invested in the downtown of our city, which has made a big difference. We've built complete communities outside the core. We've improved our transportation links. And it's time now for people to have more options in places like Port Wallace, for example. So we'll work with the province. We haven't seen any legislation. We obviously will want to look at exactly what the legislation is and how the task force will be comprised. We know we'll be part of it and have a chance to have a say. So I think that all we can say at this point is we look for more details, and we're prepared to be a willing partner in development. I've always been a pro-development mayor, but I've always said I'm a pro-good development mayor. And we get lots of complaints as councillors that there's too much approvals, that there's too much building. But council, as long as I've been on it, has been very courageous in recognizing that we need to build more options and more units for more people. And so we'll talk to the province and work with them to make those options more available.
Thank you. Paul, do you have a follow-up? No, that's good. Thank you. Next, we have Preston Mulligan with CBC.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, could you elaborate more on what your specific concerns are? I think you mentioned on the task force, but what concerns you? The province is kind of like moving into your jurisdiction here. How do you feel about that?
Well, we have to figure out what the details are. You know, clearly, our planning and development folks work very hard in making sure that we have the kind of development that makes sense. We've built a city that respects the environment, that honors its residents, that listens to its residents in the construction process and in the development process. So, as I say, our concern is, you know, what is this panel exactly going to do? And I'm open-minded about what it might do. But I will say this, we're not going to compromise on the environment. We're not going to compromise on good planning. We're not going to compromise on making sure that we are finding new ways for our citizens to get around the city, whether it's walking, better transit, riding a bike. A lot of these things are somewhat controversial, but that's what progressive cities do, is they build the kind of city that people want to come to. The last year and a half, I've met online with a number of companies who've chosen to come to Halifax during COVID. And they come here because of the talent that's available, and they've also come here because they love the city when they see it. And so we've had good development. We have a very good and strong development community, and we want to work with them as partners as well as the province. And we will be a willing partner in that development.
Care to comment on the extension of the rent control?
Well, look, I think, you know, the Premier, clearly the government that wasn't part of their platform. But they've recognized that under the circumstances that there are people who need those measures in place, and on the rent evictions as well. I don't believe rent control is a long-term solution to supply. It may be a stopgap measure while we work on supply. I think that's what Premier Houston is suggesting. And most of our landlords are awesome, but we have all seen examples of some who have done outrageous things and tried to take advantage of people, and that's not right.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Stuart Peddle with the Chronicle Herald.
Mr. Mayor, there was, I think, at least one tweet from Wayne Mason, perhaps suggesting there wasn't a whole lot of consultation as to looking at the transport plans. The city already has had that kind of work done. It seemed the province didn't quite grasp that. What are your thoughts on that?
There are some very good plans that this municipality's put together. On transportation, we have the Integrated Mobility Plan, which took a number of years, as it does in any reasonable application, to talk to people, to consider alternatives, and to come back with a plan that will change the way that people move around the municipality. We're not telling anybody they got to get out of a car this year or next year, but we are saying that as a municipality, we are going to find ways to incent people to move around the city differently. And a big piece of that is going to be in transit, and that includes ferries. So we have a plan for bus rapid transit. We have a plan for the electrification of fleet that has been, that we've partnered with in the previous provincial and the current federal government. And we're looking at ferries in from places like Bedford that will be good for the environment, good for the roads, and good for citizens as well. There's a lot of planning, so I don't know that the province have looked at all that yet. I'm sure as they look at what they want to do, they'll consider those things. I think that the work that's been done has been really, really strong in recognizing that as people move to Halifax in bigger and bigger numbers, how we move people and transport goods is really, really important. It's tied in, for example, to working with the port to take traffic off the downtown. These are all things that build the kind of community that people want to live in, and so I'm sure that the province would be happy to have a look at that and consider that as they put together their panel.
My follow-up is, how does this announcement help people today who are at has become known as the People's Park, those kind of tent encampments? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there were a number of things underway. Certainly, the government is going to commit money to homelessness, which is very positive. As you know, the city, even though it's not our responsibility, we are bringing in modular units that will house up to 70-some people, and we believe the province will fund the wraparound support for that. And under the Rapid Housing Initiative and other investments that the province have made, they've indicated that they're going to provide support for people who are homeless. Putting somebody in a hotel or a modular unit or any kind of building without the kind of support that they need, in some cases for addictions, mental health, other issues, doesn't help. We need people to be connected, to community services in order for them to have the best opportunity to succeed. So. We have had a lot of conversations. I know our bureaucrat, Jacques Dubé, who's here today, Erica Fleck, who's been heading up our outreach on this. I've had a lot of conversations with the province. I've been talking to Minister McFarlane about that, and we're very hopeful that in terms of the modular units, that'll be funded. And I also want to just say, one of the under-recognized parts of really the heroes of the homeless file are the community service agencies who do the actual work, and I've talked to them about some of our plans, and they're excited about the projects, for example, under the Rapid Housing Initiative. So we need those. We need the support. We've bought in the modular units in the case of people who are living rough in the city now. And we're doing our part, and we're sure that the province will do theirs as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Zane Woodford with the Halifax Examiner.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Just to kind of rephrase one of Stuart's questions, what did consultation look like between the province and the municipality before it came out with these two ideas for this task force and this transportation group?
Well, there hasn't been, I think, what you would call a duty to consult or anything. This was, I've had a conversation with the Premier, with the Minister of Housing. I know that our officials have had conversations up to this day, but we haven't seen any legislation, and obviously legislation under the Charter would require the duty to consult, which one assumes would mean that it would go to Council for consideration. At the end of the day, the province have the authority to do pretty much what they want to do. We're hopeful that we can find a way to work together with the province so that people are served in the most appropriate way. At the end of the day, this isn't about us or the province. This is about people who need housing, and we all have to sort of put our egos and histories aside and work together. That's what I want to do.
Is there going to be a council debate next week on this? And I guess, what does that look like?
There's been some discussion among council, but we'd have to see legislation if we're being asked to make our opinion of it. We'd have to have a conversation at council.
Thank you. Next, we have Paul Bacon with All Nova Scotia.
Mayor Savage, you've talked about the good plans the city already has, central plan, rapid transit strategy. Are you worried these two task forces are going to just reinvent the wheel when what you really need is more provincial money?
Obviously, I would be concerned if all the work that the municipality has done wasn't factored into these discussions. I think you have to separate homelessness and housing, even though they're connected. Homelessness is an immediate crisis of people who are living rough, and I think we're working with the province well on that. On housing, this is something the city's been looking at for a long time. As you may know, last year we approved backyard and secondary suites, which has the potential to add many units quickly. It was contentious. A lot of people didn't like the idea of more people in their neighborhoods, but we recognized with the growing population that we had to do that. The adoption of the center plan will mean many thousands, tens of thousands of units that would be done as of right very quickly. And we asked the province to pass that quickly when it gets to them. So there's a lot of planning that's gone into this. You know, we're prepared to sit down and say, look, what are some of the things that we can do better? Kelly Denty, who's here today, who is our Director of Planning, you know, is always looking at ways to see what we can do better and do faster. Every city in the country have these issues. We are the second fastest growing city in Canada last year, behind only Oshawa. And so we're going to continue to grow, and we all have to be prepared to say, look, the way we've always done things may need to change, but we need to do it together. I mean, certainly my preference would be that you collaborate before you legislate. And our hope is that in the days and weeks ahead, that we'll have that conversation with the Premier and the Minister, who are reasonable people.
And we're hearing that there are some large developments underway in the city right now without building permits, that the city is sort of turning a blind eye. Can you tell me anything about that?
I can't, no.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to the phone lines. We have one reporter on the line, Alicia Drouse with Global. Go ahead, Alicia.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about how this plan works with the current initiatives that are currently being led by the municipality?
Can you be a bit more specific, Alicia? I'm not sure which you're talking about.
I guess specifically with the modular housing units, does this plan kind of work together with that?
Yeah, I don't think that the modulars were specifically addressed. I know that our CIO has had a number of conversations with officials at DCS, the Department of Community Services. I've certainly had some conversations with Carla McFarland, who's the Minister of Community Services. I'm convinced that everybody wants to do the right thing here, which is to provide the support that people need to have a chance to be successful. And in the modular unit case, we're bringing them in, we're going to pay for them. What we need from the province is to provide the wraparound support. We've gotten so much further into housing in the last year or so, deliberately, because we know that it's an issue that needed to be addressed. But we don't have social workers and, you know, community support workers. We help to support the navigators, who, by the way, are also heroes in this piece, the street navigators, who are helping people who are living rough on the street. And yeah, the modular units will require support, and we have every reason to believe that we'll work with the province to make sure they get that.
And is there any one thing that you consider to really be missing from this plan? Was there anything you expected to see that you're not seeing?
Well, you know, there are a number of things here that are really positive. Inclusionary zoning is a very positive thing for us. You know, we've talked about the impact of Airbnb. It appears that we're going to be given some authority to, you know, to work on that. The renovictions, the short-term 2-year rent control could be very positive. And we've also, it's been indicated that we may have more flexibility on setting commercial rates, which has long been something that our council has requested from the Premier. So we've been heard in a lot of these. I just think that when you agree, you say so, and when you don't agree, you be honest with each other and have a conversation and see if we can find something that we think at the end of the day benefits the citizens. You know, there's nobody out there who is a municipal citizen or a provincial citizen. They're citizens of both the provincial and municipal government, and they have to be our number one concern. And right now, a lot of them are unhoused, and many more are trying to find adequate housing. So I think we have to work together, and we're prepared to do that.
That concludes today's media availability. Thank you very much for joining us.
I'll take another question if Zane wants one.
All right, Zane, go ahead.
Ultimately, just to kind of sum all this up, are you concerned that the province just wants to allow kind of car-centric sprawl, whatever developers want to do, and run roughshod over, you know, all the plans that you've been dreaming up?
That's a pretty direct question. We want to make sure that we build the kind of city that we have been building, which is a city that respects the environment and respects good planning. And can we accommodate more projects more quickly? I think we probably can. But the city will continue to do what the city needs to do, which is to make sure that we're building communities that have integrity, complete communities. You know, they talk about the 15-minute community. We don't want to build places where houses are you know, half a kilometer apart that rely on 2 or 3 cars in a family. That's not against the law. You know, my own family lives in the suburbs, and I pay for more cars than I would like. But I know that in the future that we have to continue to move to a place where we build a progressive city, where there's different ways of people moving around, where people can get to a pharmacy where they can get some food without having to jump in a car if they don't wish to. And we have some really good developments that are on the boards right now that I think will be complete communities. So that doesn't concern me. But I do think we need to, as a city, make sure that we stand up for the principles that have made this a place that people want to come to, and they're coming to in big numbers. And we got to find ways to accommodate them, and we want to do it together.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Another one? I'm quite happy.
Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Merci à tous. Wolaliak.